The shuttle's arrival on the agricultural moon of Verdance was, for its sole passenger, a profound relief. He was a xenobotanist, a quiet man more comfortable with photosynthesis ratios than people, sent by the University of Nova Terra to catalog fungal variations in the equatorial moss forests. The trip from the junk gate had been long, the hum of the engines a constant companion. Stepping onto the compacted soil of the landing pad, he breathed air that smelled of damp earth and sweet, unknown blossoms. It was a good smell. His assigned quarters were in the main settlement, a cluster of domes and low buildings nestled between rolling, violet-hued fields. The locals were a humanoid species, slender with skin the color of polished walnut and large, luminous eyes. They were polite but reserved, their community closed like a flower at dusk. He spent his first days in the moss forests, taking samples and readings, speaking only to note his observations. The silence was a balm. On the third day, seeking a change from processed rations, he found a small public square with a food vendor. The vendor, an elderly local with a face mapped by deep, kindly lines, smiled at him. Her stall emitted wonderful, spicy aromas. He pointed at a round, golden-brown item. "Biscuit?" he asked, using the universal trade term. She chuckled, a sound like rustling leaves. "You could call it that," she said in softly accented standard. "It is. A family recipe." He paid with a few credits and took the warm item. It was not like any biscuit he had ever seen. It was intricately stamped with geometric patterns and shimmered with a faint, edible dust. He took a bite. The taste was extraordinary. It was sweet, then savory, then a flavor he had no name for, something that felt like the color of memory and the sound of a distant, happy melody. It was over in 3 blissful bites. That night, he dreamed not of fungi, but of vast, star-dusted orchards and songs sung in deep, resonant harmony. He woke feeling oddly refreshed, more connected to the ground beneath his hut than he had ever felt on earth. The next morning, he returned to the square, hoping for another. The old woman was not there. Disappointed, he went about his work. But in the following days, strange things began to occur. His notes, previously dry and technical, started to include intuitive leaps about symbiotic relationships he had not yet proven. He once got lost in a dense patch of moss fronds, only to feel a gentle, inexplicable pull guiding him back to the path. The local wildlife, small skittering hexapods, no longer fled at his approach, but watched him with curious tilts of their heads. A week after eating the biscuit, he was in his lab dome, analyzing a particularly interesting spore sample, when the door chime sounded. He opened it. Standing there was the most beautiful being he had ever seen. She was clearly of the same species as the locals, but where they were muted and quiet, she seemed to glow from within. Her eyes were vast pools of silver-flecked obsidian, her posture regal yet tense. She wore a simple, dark gray tunic, but it could not hide a striking, elegant presence. "You are the off-worlder," she stated, her voice a low, melodic tremor. "I am. Can I help you?" "You ate a biscuit." From an elder at the sundown square. 7 days passed. He blinked. Yes, it was delicious. A complex wave of emotion passed over her face, alarm, frustration, and something like profound resignation. "Delicious," she repeated softly. That biscuit was not food. It was a keshver, a bonding token. The word meant nothing to him. He simply waited. "My grandmother," the woman continued, her gaze piercing him, "is a traditionalist, a romantic. Our family line is old. Our ways are not the ways of the settlement. She believes the old rituals hold the true path to harmony." She took a step closer, and he could see a faint, identical geometric pattern stitched at the collar of her tunic to the one stamped on the biscuit. "By giving you that keshver, and by you consuming it with gratitude, she has initiated a courtship ritual. On your behalf. With me. The xenobotanist felt the solid ground of his rational universe tilt. A courtship ritual, he echoed dumbly. The keshver is woven with neuroactive compounds keyed to our biology. It creates a resonance, a potential bridge between minds. It is meant to be given by a seeker to their intended, a first step in a long dance of understanding. She closed her eyes for a moment. Grandmother believes your species' latent empathic sensitivity makes you a suitable candidate. She has been watching you. She says you have a quiet soul. This is a mistake, he said hurriedly. A cultural misunderstanding. I will apologize. I will explain to her? It is not a mistake to her, the woman interrupted, opening her eyes. The ritual has been seen by the community. The token was given and accepted. To reject it now for me would be to reject a path my grandmother has sanctified. It would bring her great shame in her final seasons. She looked away, out at the violet fields. My name is, in your sounds, Kalen. He stood frozen. I don't know what to do. Neither do I, Kalen admitted, a hint of vulnerability finally showing through her poised exterior. The ritual is not binding. Not yet, but it has. Started things. The compounds in the keshver will have subtly altered your neurochemistry. You may have noticed. Intuitions. Guidance. That is the bridge. It is meant to foster understanding. He thought of the dreams, the pull in the forest, the sudden insights. It was not science. It was something else entirely. What happens now? According to tradition, she said, her tone formal again, we would spend time in each other's presence. We would share tasks. The bridge would either strengthen, suggesting a true compatibility, or it would fade, proving the connection false. In the old days, this could take seasons. And if it fades? No shame? If it fades naturally, it is simply the way of things. It is only a forced severing that causes dishonor. She finally looked directly at him again. I am a starship engineer. I work at the orbital dock. My life is there. I did not ask for this. But for my grandmother's peace, I must see it through. I am asking you to do the same. He was a man of data and evidence. This was superstition, charming alien folklore. But the evidence of his own altered perceptions was undeniable. And he saw the conflict in her duty warring with personal desire. He gave a slow nod. I will not cause shame. What do we do? So began the most peculiar period of his life. Kalen would visit his lab after her shift. At first, they simply existed in the same space. He would analyze his fungi. She would review engineering schematics on a datapad. The silence was heavy, but not hostile. After a few days, she asked about his work. He explained the symbiotic relationship between the moss fronds and the underground fungal networks, how they communicated through chemical signals. She listened, then said, "It is not so different from a starship's central nervous system. Redundancy and signal pathways." Another day, he asked about her work. She described the harmony of a perfectly balanced engine core, the dance of containment fields and plasma. He found the physics not so distant from the ecology he loved, systems seeking balance. They took walks. He showed her a patch of bioluminescent fungi that pulsed with a slow blue light. She, in turn, pointed out a flaw in the settlement's old water reclamation system, an insight that came from her engineering mind. They fixed it together. He did not tell her about the quiet hum he now felt when she was near, a sense of calm focus. He did not mention that his dreams now sometimes included the graceful arcs of starship designs. She, for her part, never spoke of any change she felt. One afternoon, a violent storm swept in from the moss forests. The wind howled, and the power in his lab dome flickered and died. A critical environmental sampler was in the middle of a delicate, days-long culture cycle. Losing climate control would ruin it. Before he could even voice the problem, Kalen was moving. "The backup power relay is in the sublevel," she said, grabbing a toolkit from her pack. "The storm will have tripped the dampener. I can bypass it." He followed her down into the cramped, dark utility space. With only the light from a hand torch, she located the problem, her hands moving with swift, certain precision. He held the light, handing her tools when she asked. There was no awkwardness, only a seamless cooperation. As she re-engaged the relay and the lights hummed back to life, she smiled at him. It was the first real, unguarded smile he had seen from her, and it struck him with the force of a physical truth. "Thank you," he said. The words inadequate. "It was a system out of balance," she replied softly. "We restored it." That night, as he lay in bed, the storm still raging outside, he felt not the hum, but a clear, distinct sensation. It was a wave of profound loneliness, followed by a flicker of warmth that felt like his own presence. It was not his emotion. It was hers, flowing across that impossible bridge. He understood then that she felt it too, this growing connection, and it frightened her as much as it intrigued him. The next evening, she arrived not at the lab, but at his quarters. Her grandmother was with her. The old woman looked at him, her luminous eyes crinkling at the corners. She said nothing, only took his hand in Cullen's, placing them together for a moment before walking away into the twilight. Kalen did not pull her hand away immediately. "She believes the bridge is strong," she whispered. "Is she wrong?" He asked, his own voice quiet. Kalen was silent for a long time. "I have received 3 coms from the orbital dock. My project is complete. My berth on a freighter bound for the Corward span is secured. It leaves in TW,